I'm just the gift that keeps on giving, to be honest. But welcome back. So I didn't realize we were doing a mid-season update today, and I looked at it and I thought it's actually a lot to go over. So I decided to just do a segment on it on stream because a lot of people are going to ask me, "Have you seen the mid-season update?" And that's when I'm going to respond, "Yes." And here's my thoughts on it. So um, the mid-season update is supposed to be about tanks. The tank update, so to speak. So I'm gonna watch the teaser trailer for it. It's 38 seconds long. Not sure what to expect, and then I'm gonna go into the patch notes up here. So let's get this going. Yeah, really. Nami wave? What? Oh shit, they actually reworked a lot of abilities from these champions. Alright, I'm interested. What do we got with this? So the intro's in the mid-season. Inflection point where we look back to the season of date and step up things heading into the second half of the year. So usually what mid-season is Riot's allowed to change big things in 2 parts of the year, the mid-season and the preseason. And so mid-season, I'm expecting pretty sweeping changes on a lot of the problems we have in the game at the moment. Usually it's targeted toward like they either do class updates like they did the assassin class update, or in this situation this is focused more on primarily tanks. So what are they going to focus on? Let's jump on in. I looked at this a little bit before. Rift Heralds. So to put it lightly, Rift Herald's relative use is pretty much nothing. In competitive games, the example of like min-maxing to the extreme would be competitive games. Rift Herald only gets taken if you like there's nothing else to do. Like Dragon's down, the mid lane shoved in, you can't siege mid lane, there's no tower left, you can't siege top lane, there's no tower left. You have full vision, and your jungle camps are cleared, and then their jungle camps are cleared. So you're just like in the area, and you're just like, well, I guess I'll take it. That's usually the words I hear people say when they do Rift Herald. They're just like, well, I was in the area, and I guess I should do it. It's never something where it's like, we gotta take Rift Herald this game, dude. It's gonna be the way we win the game. So I think they need to rework this in some way, shape, or form, because even in solo queue, no one really takes Rift Herald. It's not even that good. Like I'd rather take 2 camps from the enemy jungler than take Rift Herald 100% of the time. So what did they change about Rift Herald? We're ditching the buff approach. Okay. Instead, she drops a Herald's Eye as she retreats from the void. It's in your inventory for a few minutes, granting the empowered recall when held. Cool. Using the Eye before it expires summons the Herald back to the rift under your team's banner, sending her down the nearest lane as a structure-smashing siege machine. She says hello to ramming into buildings from a distance, dealing massive damage from there. Delay smashing the rubble before moving on to the next objective down the lane. Okay, so my initial thoughts on this are there are a lot of other games do similar PvE monsters into lane shoving monsters like this. It's a really delicate balance decision because either the monster's too strong at shoving and it takes the entire team, like the PvE objective is too powerful, so it becomes too necessary to get, or it's super weak and it's not very good. So finding the balance point is really difficult. So let me say that right now. On top of that, like for instance, other games that do this, MXM and HOTS both have PvE monsters that go down your lane. If you capture a shrine or a capture point, whatever, you get these monsters. And so League has typically never done this before. For the most part, the most they've ever done is like a banner empowered minion, or like I guess the empowered. I think Yorick ulti is like as close to like a split pushing PvE monster as you can get. But for the most part, it's never been in the game before. Mordekaiser Dragon is another example. And so, as I'm looking at this, it says it's a little bit scary because if it's a melee minion, it's really easy to clear because it's right next to your tower. So your melee champions can hit it. Think of it as like literally doing a raid in any kind of PvE instance. If the champion, like if the character runs up to you, you just tank it. It's like a tank and spank fight, right? Because it's hitting the tower and you're hitting it, it's really easy for you to miss position, and they have to go into your tower range to be able to effectively push it off, which is good for you. But however, it's actually a range champion, which is really scary to me because depending on how much range it is, on top of the fact that you have to actually fight it like you fight it in the pit, which is you have to poke out the eye behind it. So getting behind positioning on a ranged unit that's sieging. Imagine if you're trying to get a behind positioning on an empowered cannon minion that's sieging your base. That's impossible if they're sieging well, if they're like standing next to it. So I can already tell this might be a problem depending on the relative range of the Rift Herald and how tanky it is. Especially if you need to hit the eye to be able to actually kill it. The thing is, okay, she no longer fights champions. So she's literally just, you run this straight down. It says it's vulnerable to crowd control, which means I guess it works. CC just works on it. But again, it's a little bit scary because it's a range minion, not a melee minion. I don't know exactly how effective balance is going to work. Range could be anything like, oh, it's got 250 range, like 600 range, right? And so this is a very difficult balance point for players in the game, or just the game in general. I'm interested because I think Rift Herald has been relatively useless since its inception, and Riot's kept it in there because it adds some sort of relative power onto the top side of the map before 20 minutes, and that's better than, even though it's weak, it's better being weak than having nothing there. And so I'm glad they're changing it. Obviously, it's going to be kind of unbalanced early, so I'm hoping they can balance it pretty quickly. Oh, the first auto attack is range, but the rest is melee. Okay, then it's a lot easier to be able to get backwards position on the champion, so it probably would be a lot less dominant in its shoving in. I actually didn't realize that it was ranged and then melee. I have to see it in effect during the game, but that makes it a lot less oppressive, I guess, and a lot easier to position behind to be able to break it down from behind. Anyways, I'm going to keep going. So, tank updates. They want to specifically focus on a couple champions. So what did they identify? Sejuani, Maokai, Zac are 3 champions to struggle from this. So if you look at the assassin class, how many champions were fixed in the assassin update? Let me just quickly look at it. I don't even remember. So they had 4 main champions: Talon, Rengar, LeBlanc, Cat, and then they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minor reworks around that. So that's probably around something where you can expect for the tank update as well. So it looks like instead they have 3 major reworks for Sejuani, Maokai, and Zac. And they don't talk about the minor reworks, but it's something you should expect going in. So what is it about Sejuani? Currently, Sejuani very slow at clearing. She's okay. There was a point in time where she was super meta in the Cinderhulk meta. But for the most part, she's been relatively weak since inception because it's tough for her to kill the creeps, and she doesn't really have much impact before 6. And most junglers need to be able to skirmish well to be able to have like a good pace, or being able to just jungle effectively. Because if you want to find another jungler, the other jungler runs in on you, and if you can't skirmish him off of it, at least to some degree, you're a pretty weak champion. So what does Sejuani have? Barbarian, War Leader, Heavy Cavalry, but falls short of either. She's defined almost entirely by her ulti, which is true. We're breaking Sejuani out of her ult bot status to more impactful things while skirmishing alongside her tribe. A redefined permafrost comprises the bulk of Sejuani combat contributions, making her the War Leader she was meant to be. Passively, Sejuani and her melee allies. Oh, that's interesting. So she works best with melee champions. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't think Riot's ever done this before, where they have, or it's like a very rare thing where it's only melee champs apply this certain thing. Unlike Braum, passive Sedge doesn't need to be the one to start the stacking. Once it reaches max stacks, Sejuani can point and click stun them with permafrost. Should she attack a frozen target, just shatter them for major damage. Sejuani is at her strongest in 2v2 or 3v3 situations, which is the best chance of permafrosting enemy encounter. Whew. She's got point and click CC now, and she's similar to Braum passive. It works well with. That's interesting. You know what actually I think about this? You know what makes Braum good? Like, Braum works well in bot lane, right? And if she's gonna be a support, isn't she? It's better than. Oh no, it doesn't work on ranged champions. Man, you'd have to run like Yasuo Sejuani, but that'd be really interesting. I can understand why it's melee locked now, because she don't want her in the support role. That would be super funny when Lucian starts the fight, gets the 4 stacks by himself, and Sejuani just point and click CCs it. But yeah, point and click CCs are really, really dangerous because they don't need you to be good at the game. Essentially, you just look at the target. This is the target I want to CC, and you hit it. I like the idea about it. It certainly makes her more unique. What are the other things? Her other skills are getting updates. Frost Armor now protects Sejuani as she charges into the battle, granting bonus resist and slow immunity. Okay. Flail of the Northern, that's her W, is a 2-part swing slam combo. Letting Sejuani first strike and stack Frost in any direction, while Bristol continues to move across the battlefield. Graceful Prison no longer stuns the entire team, but turns the battlefield around its explosion into a slowing zone that gives Sejuani's warband time to get into Frost stacking range. Her ult her ulti is literally a Nivea ulti. A big Nivea ulti you can throw. She becomes more of a skirmisher. This is probably better for her in terms of being being able to. Hello? Did my stream go off? Are we good? All right, looks like we're good. I don't know if I even like the idea that she moves away from her ult back status, but the biggest thing is the fact that she can skirmish better, and so that's something that I think that current junglers need a lot. The ability to just skirmish well is something that is almost a necessity, especially in high elo play, and so making her more down in line for a skirmisher makes her like more viable by itself, in my opinion. Let's keep going though. Even among tanks, Maokai is a pretty generalist. There's no solution where he's a bad pick, and there's no situation where he's a great pick either. Is that true? I think that there's a situation where Maokai was the best pick. If you're picking a tank top lane, you pick Maokai. And they finally nerfed this champion like 7 times or something ridiculous, to the point where, at this point, oh, Nautilus is a better pick than Maokai. But for the most part, Maokai has kind of transcended time in the sense that he's always been the go-to tank. And that's actually really bad, because that's why I like there to be more unique stuff, because Maokai used to be like legit, if you're top lane, you want to pick a tank, pick me Maokai, pick me Maokai, pick me Maokai. Doesn't matter their team comp has 4 people that can be attack speed slowed by Malphite. Doesn't matter, pick me Maokai, because he was just that good. So I wonder what they're going to do to make him more unique. So let's just go look. In terms of basic ability, saplings do more damage when tossed into bush, giving strategic value as a little sentries and adding new considerations into Maokai jungle clear, where he chooses to fight. Okay, interesting for jungle Maokai. Meanwhile, we're sharpening sap magic identity as a passive that saps magic. Now operates off a cooldown. Thank God, that was one of his biggest balance problems. And while Maokai still speeds it up, there's self-cast. Only enemy abilities that hit him grant him the reduction. Once per cast. Okay. This leaves him vulnerable against basic attack-oriented champions like Tryndamere or Furyo, but even more resilient against frequent casters such as Karthus and Corki. Okay, so he's more defined toward being able to repel magic damage, consistent threats. I got it. Biggest change in Maokai's update is his ulti, which has been completely redesigned. Nature's Grasp summons a lane-wide wall of roots that advances forward, each one rooting the first enemy champion hit. The wall has devastating teamfight potential, but its slow speed demands Maokai plans around it. To find success, the twisted tree has to corral enemies into a wall's path and keep them there until nature runs its course. They gave him Nami Wave. That's literally how it is. They gave him Nami ulti as his ulti, which is maybe a little bit slower. I think it's really wide too. I think it's really interesting. It makes him less of a just like a raw tank, because he used this ulti and you'd win every team fight because you'd be ungodly tanky. And now, in terms of defensive tools, he doesn't really have much. Like his defensive tools before were his passive, which healed a lot. and his ulti, which made him like stupidly tanky, and his teammates, which is why he was such a good tank. You just pick him at any point moment you need a tank, and he makes himself tanky plus everyone else. But now he doesn't have he I don't know. Relatively, his lane is going to be not that good, right? He's only good into other AP users or like other tanks, and even in 1v1 scenarios, it's going to be really hard for him to practice passive a lot. On top of that, he's not going to be that tanky, so he's going to be like an initiator, but he'll go down very quick, or he'll be like good at following up. Interesting. I think it's better that he's more defined. I don't mind giving him Nami Wave for sure. I like the fact that he's more unique in what he does, especially that his passive got changed to where it's not like just great all the time, and then the balance of the champion is just really difficult. But I thought he'd get something more unique rather than giving him Nami Wave. I guess I have to see how it is in game before I make any more assumptions. I'm less enthused about this rework than the Sejuani one because it feels like they made them more defined but not more unique. That's the best way I could say it. Maybe a little bit boring, but we'll see. Okay, we'll keep going. Zac, and so I actually thought Zac was fine. Like, was there a problem with this champion? I think I watched Media's play Zac. Cool, he's great. You know, he's a long range initiation threat. He's like okay in the jungle right now. He's very unique. He is like one of the longest initiation ranges in the game. He's very CC. He's got very disruptive. And I don't necessarily think Zac was like a champion that needed to be reworked. I thought he was great at what he did. He's already fairly unique, and he's got a defined role in the game. So it looks like they just did some weird stuff. So let's keep going. Zac was in the best spot to start with. Okay, so they acknowledge that. Slingshot affords Zac the ability to engage for great distances. Solar Vision is cool. Runs out cool stuff to do once he uses the exciting parts of this kit to make his entrance. But yeah, that's fine. What? Like, is that a problem? Does every champion need to be like have the most exciting kit? You think Ari's W is exciting to use when after she uses her ulti? Like, Ari's not fun to play after her like Q and ulti are down. You just throw like W's on yourself, and you're just like, well, this is a fun champion. Like, I don't know. Okay, do you want to bring other parts of Zac's kit up to elastic slingshot standards? Wow, okay. Give him 2 new forms of crowd control. Stretching Strikes is undergoing a big change. We added an S to the end of it. First, Zac throws out a blob hand that sticks to the first enemy hits. Once he lashes onto something, his next basic attack becomes equally sticky, and he uses noodly appendages to slam both targets into each other. That's so weird. It's okay. It's more CC. I don't even fully understand this ability. He throws out his first hand and it latches onto something, and his next auto becomes sticky. And then, so whenever he latches on, then his next auto can like slam the stuff together. So it should be, let's say you Q someone at range, and then you hit the melee minion next to you, and the two things should be able to hit each other. Like they get dragged together and meet at the middle, something like that. Yeah, he drags 2 people, knocks together, maybe in front of you, maybe a little bit to the side. Let me keep reading. I'm gonna try to think about this while I read. Let's Bounce is also getting a facelift on cast. Zac flattens himself into a puddle and has the option to charge up for a few seconds. If he lets go without charging, he'll bounce into place and knock back nearby enemies, similar to what happened today. If he stays in the puddle for at least a second, everything changes drastically. On release, scoops up every enemy on top of him and slaps them all over the target to a target location. So I don't even know what does this word mean? He like drags them over? This is like not. The wording is so weird. Okay, so my initial thoughts, I read all this, right? And so what did they want to make sure with Zach? They wanted to make it so he's got cool, exciting things to do in this kit after he eats in. Okay, I understand the idea. Maybe I don't agree with it. Makes sense, whatever. What is Zach's most basic thing, his least exciting ability, his entire kit? What is the thing that you think to yourself, wow, that's just boring. You just click it on cooldown, right? It's his W. You don't think his Q, because his Q it requires it's a targeted ability with a relatively short range, and it AoE slows. So why did they not change his W when they changed his Q and it changes his ulti? Which, by the way, his ulti was his like most dynamic thing. And so why did they? If they wanted to go with this, which is the idea of to make his less exciting parts more exciting. Why? I mean, I understand his Q isn't great, but by target I mean like you point and click it toward a direction, right? It's a skill shot essentially, but I would say his least engaging thing to use is his W by a long shot, and then after that it's his Q and then the rest of his kit. So why would they not change his W if they're looking to make his play engaging? I'm just saying, if that's the point of this rework, is to make Zach, who's already, I think, a decent champion, unique and rewarding playstyle, right, to a champion that's got this specific thing, which is we want to bring other parts up to elastic slingshot standard. Why are they not targeting the thing that's the least exciting on his kit? I don't care if the W is good for jungle clearing or good for his passive. I care about the fact that that it just seems like it's the wrong thing to target if they're targeting his Q first. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, his ulti sounds cool now. I mean, his ulti was already cool, but it also sounds cool again. So I'm interested to see how the Q works out in game. For the most part, the Sedge rework is sick, looks really cool. Macro rework, less enthused about it. They gave him Nami wave and his passive is weaker. And the Zac is cool, but not necessary, is generally how I see this. I know there will be a lot of small reworks for other tanks as well, but that's generally my thoughts on the 3 tanks that they showed so far. Okay, let's keep going. So, durability items. Working on a whole system of items involves a lot of change to a lot of new stuff. We got more in store. This ain't the patch notes. Understand that I'm just quickly going over it as well. After our 3 take opportunities, we're looking to clean up and sharpen the landscape of the defensive item I built. Read the end of the champ. Wait, I already did. It's essentially that small reworks. We won't be making. Oh, wait, what? I thought they said they would be doing it later. We won't be making small reworks to other tanks. Small reworks were meant to give something as the players in the class, many players in the class as possible, even if that approach was just a quality of life improvement. Small, not the thematics. While this go-wide approach has led to some long-term wins, we'd rather ship the wins rather ship just the wins rather than going for the completion. Okay. Was it one small rework that we would have set out with our 3 main takes, but holding them in the chamber felt silly without a broader set of small reworks to fit them into, so we shipped them ahead of schedule. So Riot thinks the other tanks are good? Like, Riot thinks, like, Malphite is in a good spot right now. They think, what the heck? Aatrox is a tank? They essentially think that, like, for instance, is Cho'Gath like a tank or like an AP champion? Why isn't he getting reworked? He has like some of the most boring parts of the kit. He has 2 parts of his kit where they only increase with damage and not CDR. I think they can also rework Garen as well. And they should definitely rework Jarvan, because I think that's a champion that's pretty outdated as well. But I guess they're not doing any of that. And like Rammus is relatively weak, so I'd like to see buffs onto Rammus as well as Malphite, but it's very strange they're not doing small reworks. They're just really focusing on these 3. Alright, I don't like it. I'll be honest. I mean, I love the Amumu change, right? The one that they had here, where they made it so that he becomes better in team fights, better mid late game, and good with comps. Like he has certain unique utility which helps more magic damage threats work with him. I think this is really cool, and their idea is that they'll slowly do this to champions over time, and they want to just make sure that they're only releasing the good stuff every patch. That's fine, but it's only different than what I expected. Okay, so what is the new stuff? There's no magic resistant equivalent to Frozen Heart or Randuin's Omen, are two armor items with passives tailor-made to put damper on sustained damage. For lack of similar passive against mages, Imar has to run double duty. Imar protects against all magic damage, but also takes only answer high-frequency spellcasters like Cassiopeia. This leaves us in a bad spot. We have no tools to slot into anti-sustained defenses that wouldn't make items completely oppressive against burst threats. Agreed. We therefore end up nerfing sustained damage mages directly because there's nothing we can buff as a counter without shutting down every other mage in lane. You guys have not done that. So, I mean, I guess you've nerfed Corki, but sustained damage has pretty much always been king in the game. Ever since long-range sustained damage threats have been in the game, which I guess the initial rise of Azir and Victor back in Season 3, 4, and even before that, where you had Karthus and Nivea in Season 2, range consistent damage threats have always been generally the best consistent damage threats in the game. And I think it's weird that, like, they, like, nerf them, but they're still the best. Sorry, that's completely irrelevant. Ryze is a good example. I guess Ryze and Cassio are two champions that did get nerfed specifically because they were too strong, but I don't consider them, like, just, like, they're, like, outliers because they're super OP. Cassio's still good, by the way. Ryze is an outlier because his, like, entire kit is, like, not just a sustained damage mage. He was just nerfed because he was, like, dumb and super broken. Oh, anyways, whatever. We'll keep seeing. So mid-season, used to create anti-sustained damage magic item. Once you've been hit by a spell, Adaptive Helm reduces the magic damage you take from that same spell cast within a short window. Protects against super low cooldown abilities while getting in the way of full kit combos. Interesting. I don't mind the fact that they're adding more items. I think more items need to be into the game. Certainly, this is something that's very unique, and if they can use this to better balance out overall MR balance for the game, then it's good. I like it. While durability items gives tank the general toughness they need to survive team fights, there's no dedicated pickup for champs who want to itemize specifically for 5v5 moshing. Gargoyles don't play as that answer. On its own, it's a hybrid armor MR item with an active that grants bonus health at the expense of damage dealt. When you're surrounded by 3 or more enemy champions, however, Stoneplay truly turns on. It'll grant you even more armor resist and its active health goes way up. So it is just a tank item. Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's for specifically 5v5ing, and it's really you need at least 3 champions, which is quite a lot of champions. It's really, you only get that during team fights, especially if you have to be close to them. And you lose damage for it. I think a lot of pure tanks don't really care about how much damage you do. If you have a champion that CCs quite well, and you activate this when you're initiating something like, let's say, old Maokai, your flash W into multiple people, or like, I guess, old Zac, where you E into like 5 people and then you press Gargoyle Stone Plate. I guess it makes sense on what it does. Okay, more items, better. Might be a balance problem, but that's just all a numbers thing, right? So item health versus resistances. The giant health numbers of some of our completely defensive items allow tanks and non-tanks to spike harder after first big purchase than damage dealers can keep up with. While these items should be powerful against the intended threat, 500 health confers a ton of survivability against damage against other type as well. We're converting some of that health on Services, Sunfire, Deadmans, and Randuins into their respective resistances, leaving them roughly as effective against the intended damage type, but less so versus the other. To compensate for lower health, we will also be decreasing the health threshold for Warmog's armor. That means some of our armor pen items need to be adjusted with greater importance placed on armor. Value penetration naturally goes up. We're bumping down penetration on items, funneling that into other physical damage such as crit and lifesteal. Okay, so making it so that health isn't the go-to stat for both things. I like it. I actually think that you should look to make choices when you're buying items. I think it's a really good change. Defensive item for carries. Tanks aren't the only champions that want defensive items. GA, for example, Powerful items for carries staring down burst threats. However, most of those items bear a defensive stat line, making them logical purchases for tanks, a bit odd for carries. Restatting some of these items to be more appropriate carry purchases, focusing their defensive value on their passes rather than the baseline stat durability. I don't mind it. I just think it's good in the sense that it makes it so that pure tanks don't build third item GA every game, which I thought was really silly that they could do that and not be really hard punished for it. But I also think that there's a world where we used to live in where people used to buy defensive items on every champion, and if we go or GA on every champion, if we go to a situation where like carries have a viable path to build GA second or GA, I think that that's like pretty scary. So I have to see the numbers for the item. Overall, though, it's a good change and what you want to deviate away from. League doesn't do a good job of rewarding or recognizing the contributions of non-carry roles. Is that really true? I guess so. But the problem extends to groups like tanks and split pushes as well. We're doing the best for the team, often giving carries all the gold and kills, leaving everyone else like second-class citizens. Is that true? Okay, contribution clarity. I guess KDA and damage dealt to champions are the most commonly celebrated measures of success. Yeah, but that's because people are just stupid. Like, that's not like I guess this is Riot's thing to be able to make it so that it's less obvious. Like, I don't think that's like when people. There's a reason I never go with the damage dealt stat line at the end of the game because it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't tell you anything except for you did damage that game, and who cares if you did more damage than another champion when it's like maybe the time you didn't do damage was during a really important team fight where you needed to do damage, right? It just tells you like one side of the story. I understand there's truth behind it because it's perpetuated among players where it's like we want to have large KDAs so that we feel good about ourselves, you know? And I understand them wanting to clarify other things. So I don't think it's bad for them to do this. Let me put it. So we're actually adding new VFX to spotlight the caster of summoner spells and active items such as Exhaust and Crucible. Crowd control items are also getting visibility bump in order to, in addition to rework status icons, effect types are now spelled out as text above champion health bars, overriding summoner names until the effect subscribes. Oh, that's interesting. So if you get feared, it'll like your name will be, instead of like Fiddle, it'll be like you got feared. Oh, actually, I guess the Fiddle will be doing the fear, so you'd be like Lucian and you got feared, and it just overrides the Lucian. Players are getting better feedback about the work their active items are doing, similar to how Locket tracks down damage, its shield absorbed. Okay, we're adding a new in-the-game stats for how long you CC'd your enemy, how effective your warding and counter warning was, how much damage you mitigated versus shields and resist. Okay, I mean that's cool. I think it's cool that they're trying to make it so there's more rewards for people who are the supports essentially of the game. I just think this is like a problem that Riot has to fix because people are stupid. Not necessarily like I understand. It's not like this is something that has been like a self-fulfilling thing that we've done to ourselves rather than like Riot specifically, in my opinion. It's just like generally in all games. It's fine that they tackled it. Support quests. Playing well as a support often means intentionally foregoing actions that grant gold or experience. Two things that generally make people stronger. In League in the past, we gave supports their own unique items to prop their lower gold income, but led to problems when other positions found ways to abuse them. Yep, I remember that. This time around, we're cutting out golden experience as middlemen and directly rewarding supports with powerful benefits for mastering the gameplay of their items. These quests. It's like I play Hearthstone and they bring the Hearthstone quest chain to League. After earning enough gold with your support items' unique passive, it'll grant you an extra effect. Ancient Coin Line. Gain an elixir that grants grants a skill point when consumed. Woo! That's pretty powerful. Okay. Is this a HOTS mechanic? This is really interesting. Relic Shield line. Grant the shield that regenerates ally combat. Okay. Spell Thief's Edge line. Tributes grant procs a burst of movement speed. Okay. Ancient Coin's existing passive, being a near minion when it dies, is pretty boring, offers nothing to build a quest around, so redesign it. Nearby enemy minions occasionally drop coins when killed by other than you, restoring health or granting gold on pickup. After one coin type has spawned, oh god, it's a mini game. It's a chime mini game. Oh no, it's a thresh passive mini game. It's good if you're winning lane, and if you're losing lane, then it sucks, right? Because you can't. Oh, actually, I think it's okay because for the most part, when you kill stuff, it's like front to back. Um. I don't necessarily have an inherent bias against minigames. I just think that everything shouldn't be a minigame. I think Riot has done an okay job about that. I don't mind them looking to put more available like things into the support line. However, I will say though, like because there's a perception, and not Riot's fault, that there's KDA damage dealt, and supports are like the people who like never get recognition. I feel like sometimes it goes all the way over because when you think about the relative power of support in general, I think support's an extremely powerful role, and so giving more power to the role is like. It's suspicious to me. It's very, very dangerous. When you think about, and the thing is, it's like, look at what I think Riot should do. I think Riot should have more items in the game. But one of the roles I think that itemization is actually really good is support. I think support itemization has some of the best items in the game. When you're thinking about, and because supports don't get much gold, Riot creates like some of the most unique effects for support as well because they want to help them out and because, you know, no one plays support, no one likes playing support. We gotta give them like cool effects to some extent, and because they don't get much gold, like they get the effect, they get like stuff to work around, more actives. And when you think about it, they have redemption, they have locket, they have crucible, they have censor, they have all these things that are just like really, really, really powerful, as well as they get a lot of decision making on what to build. All right, I'm against Fiddle Fear and Ash Arrow. I want crucible early. I'm team fighting a lot against assassins. I probably want locket early. And I think that support itemization is already very, very powerful. And putting more power into the relative support role is really scary to me because while I don't think I understand supports are relatively slept on in general as a role. I also don't think support should ever be the role that has some of the most impact in the game. And it already is, in my opinion. Like, it's a role which has very, very significant impact, but not noticeable. And this is going to try to make it more noticeable, right? Over here. So, I think with this, on top of making support more stronger, it's scary to me. Just in general. I guess that's all I want to say about that. So, I like a lot of what they're looking to do in terms of like being able to have more specific, unique adaptations to MR and more unique items to buy depending on what you want to do. I like that they're making it so health isn't the overall super stat to stack. There was a period of time where people went double giant spell when they weren't sure about what to build, for instance. And I like the fact that they're making it so there's more more clarity for supports. I'm a little bit scared about the relative power that, for instance, some of these things could have, these new items. But that's mainly like a numbers thing. I think that it's fine to put them in the game, and you just assume it's going to be over or under tuned vastly on the initial strike or the initial launch, and it'll be balanced as before the season or the halfway mark of the season starts again. In terms of the reworks, like I already said, I really like Sejuani. Maokai, kind of think he's okay. And Zach, I didn't think he needed to be changed, but he's still cool. And the Rift Herald, we'll see. That's what I'm going to say about the Rift Herald. We'll see. Aside from that, I'm going to go ahead and play some ads. I'm going to get in the queue. I'll see you guys in a little bit.